Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, guys. Today's session will be we'll start with lambda functions. So, what is a lambda function, and why do we use this lambda function? Generally, lambda functions in Python are anonymous functions, which are very similar to normal functions, but not same. Okay, just similar. There is a slight difference between to a normal function to a lambda function. As I told you, lambda function. What is a lambda function? Lambda functions in Python are anonymous, anonymous functions. These are anonymous functions. So, which will imply they don't have a name. They don't have a name actually. These lambda functions, these functions don't have specific name. So, generally, for an example, let me tell you what is the specificity here. Here, generally, how do we declare a function, define a function? Def and name of the function. Let's say we'll go with the name of the function. Let's say this is the name of the function, then open and close parenthesis, then colon. Here we will have the parameters, right? This is how the this is how a normal function looks like. This one, this whole thing is a normal function, but these lambda functions, they don't have specific name. So this is in case of normal function. So how does a normal function looks like? It will have a def keyword, then it will followed by a name of the function, then it will have parameters along with semicolon, then body of the function. So the def keyword is needed to create a typical function in Python, as we know this. We can also use the lambda keyword in Python to define an unnamed function. Why do we use lambda function? To define a unnamed function. Okay, how does the syntax looks like? Let me show you. Just give me a moment. So first we will look into the syntax. What is the syntax of the lambda function? Just the keyword lambda, then we'll have the arguments, colon, arguments, colon, then we'll have here expression. That's it, guys. This is it. So here we'll have arguments. So I'll make you much easier. So how does a one second, guys. See, lambda function. How does a lambda function looks like? A lambda function will have lambda, name of the function, then space. Sorry, lambda is the keyword, which is a predefined keyword we must use as it is. Then we'll have our user defined arguments and user defined expression. This is how a lambda function looks like. This function accepts any count of inputs, but only evaluates and returns one expression. It will take n number of inputs. It can take any number of inputs, but only accepts and evaluates uh, and returns only one expression. Okay, that's the main thing, guys. Here the lambda function accepts n number of inputs from the user, but only evaluates and returns one expression. It can take n number of arguments, but it evaluates and returns only one expression. Are we clear, guys? It takes any number of inputs, sorry, inputs, but it only returns, it only evaluates and returns, actually evaluates and returns one expression. Okay, this is the condition, guys. Here, this is a note, you should make a note of it. Okay, so a lambda function can take n number of arguments, but it evaluates and returns only one expression. That's the main thing in lambda function. Lambda functions can be used whenever function arguments are necessary. Wherever you need the function arguments needed at that time, at that situation, you can use the lambda functions in such scenarios. In addition to other forms of formulations in functions, it is a variety of application in certain coding domains. Let's say it's important to remember uh, that according to the syntax, lambda functions are limited to a single statement. Okay, these lambda functions are limited to a single statement. Okay, let me give you one example. So, example for lambda function. We'll have an example of lambda function that adds 4 to the input number. Whatever the number you give, it will add 4 to that number and it will show on the output. That's our motto, objective of our program. So let's take lambda function, and to store whole thing we need one temporary variable. For this, I'm taking a dummy as my name of the variable. Then dummy, sorry, lambda space, as I told you here, it should give arguments. So I'll lead one number, any I'm taking number, that is an argument. Then we'll have expression. What is that expression? Whatever the number I'll take, I should add 4, increment 4, then it has to print. For this, num num plus 4, as I told you. Then that's it. Hit enter. After this, what I need to print? I need to print the value which is stored in dummy. Okay, let me print this. Sorry, let me run this. The function lambda, it just shown the number. Okay, this is a lambda function. We know this. Num is equals to num. This is fine. Lambda, and we have stored some value um, there. It's supposed to call the function. This is a function. Name of the function. It should, you should take this as a function. And what is the number, numbers value? What is the value you are trying to pass to this number? Now let me go with some. I'm passing 6, or I'm passing 1, or 100. Let's say 100. I'm passing. So this dummy is acts as the function now, because it has to take one argument, right? So that's the reason we are converting this variable into a function so that it can accepts the user input. Now run this. If you run, the output will be 104. See here. Are you clear? Any doubts? Before the colon, whatever you have, that's considered as the argument, which you need to pass from here. And after the colon, whatever you give, that will be considered as the expression, this whole thing. Are we clear? Here the parameter is num. Here num is the parameter, and the computed and returned value is num plus 4. And what is that num's value? 100 is the num value. There is no label for this function. Do you see any labels? Like for normal functions we use a def keyword, right? Here we do not use any kind of labels. Directly we define our function, define our lambda function by using the lambda keyword. It generates a function object. This is a function object actually. This is a function object associated with the dummy identifier. This is the dummy identifier. This is the name of the object, that is identifier. We can now refer to its standard function. Let's say, uh, let me uh, show this in a normal way. How do we write the same function in normal format? Let me show you that also. This is using lambda. How does this looks without lambda? First, we'll go with the def keyword to declare a function, define a function. Sorry, num. Sorry, what is the name of the function? Dummy, right? Dummy is the name of the function. Next, we're gonna pass num as the parameter. Then, after once you enter, you should use the return keyword. Then after num plus 4, what is the num value? Here you need to pass. Print that dummy. Dummy, what is the value you are passing? 100. See, both functions performs, gives you, performs and elevates and gives you the same result. This is without, this one is without lambda. Okay, and this one with lambda. Are you clear? Any doubts, guys, up to this? Are we clear? Guys, can you hear me? Am I audible? If I am audible, please confirm it. We'll have a level.
Yes, bro.
Okay, fine. We'll have one more example for this, to one last example to differentiate to a normal function to a lambda function. I'll write a simple program which will filters the odd numbers from a list using lambda function. Let's try with lambda function. Here our main objective is to print or filter odd numbers from the given list. Let me take a list now. One list, and that list consists of some numbers, some random numbers. Let's say these are the numbers. In this list, I wanted to filter odd numbers from this. For this, you need a function object, right? Let's say we'll go with some dummy. Dummy one is the object. Then we'll go for the uh, lambda, and before going to lambda filter is the method which we use in python. It's a default method, built-in method, sorry. And for this I'm performing on the list, right? So list, then let me take list 1. So in list I'm going to perform the operation. List is the predefined. The list will also kind of performs, it takes the values and it will performs the operations. List, then what I need to do, I need to use the filter direct method, guys. Filter is the direct method, built-in method. You can take it from the built-in library. Okay, then I write my normal lambda functions. Lambda expression, what is that expression? Whatever the value I'll get, that will be stored in my uh, some a. I want to store it in some way. Then colon. After this, all the values will be stored in where? in A. So for this, what is the logic? A should be divisible by 2, and if it is not is equals to, if it is not is equals to 0, if it is not is equals to 0, then what it should be print? It should print the, it should print the that list, whatever we have stored, right? So now here I want to print my that list, that dummy. So what is happening here? The logic is here. Here is the sorry for that, guys. Okay, here what is the logic? So whatever the number which is divisible by 2 and gives you the remainder 0, then if it is divisible by 2 and gives you the remainder 0, that will be an even number, right? So but what I have written here, a is divisible by 2 but it should not equals to 0, which means it will be 1. So wherever you will get the remainder 1, that will be considered as the values will be stored into this a, and that will be replicated and automatically will stored in dummy 1, that will be printed here. Let me run this. See here, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. These are the odd numbers. This is how you can filter. What if it is equals to 0? Now, even numbers. It will give you the even numbers. Because the remainder becomes 0. Are we clear? Any doubts? Those are the example for lambda functions, guys. Okay. Next, I guess that's all for the today, guys. Because these are the very important